Hi, and welcome to a Small, Medium at Large podcast. I'm your host, Gail Heisen, bringing you intimate interviews beyond normal boundaries. I want to thank all of you listeners for standing by us for the last 4 years as we start over 100. We're in our 107th show, I think. And I want to tell you that today we've decided to go away from our normal interview type of show here. And instead, I have two very special guests that also happen to be my very dear friends. So this is going to be more of a intimate conversation amongst three friends who all know each other, talking about things in their life. So let me tell you about each one of our special guests. Karen Matsu Greenberg always knew she was a little bit different, but was never quite sure how. When she learned that her mother had given up a baby at 16, many unanswered questions of her life fell like dominoes. Karen grew up with her adopted sister in Long Island when it was still forested and had potato farms. Then she moved to California later in life to attend Berkeley University, and then back to New York where she met her husband in a Tai Chi class. Karen raised two beautiful daughters in their apartment in the East Village. She worked for over 30 years in the belly of the publishing industry before taking over a gluten-free bakery shop that her daughter opened during COVID in the Catskills, where she lives now with her husband Phil, two dogs, two cats, and 16 chickens. Welcome, Karen. Kelly's
Thank you.
bio. Kelly Rooney is best known as the daughter of legendary movie superstar Mickey Rooney and actress Barbara Ann Rooney. Mickey had many wives, and Kelly didn't grow up with all of her siblings. After the horrific murder of her mother while she and her siblings were asleep, their lives changed drastically. These kids were relocated in 1992 to Northern California to grow up with Kelly's mother's loving parents. Kelly was prevented from seeing her father before his passing in 2014. Kelly has become an advocate for the rights of elders and their family members, and she's on the board of the Kasem Cares, successfully shepherding legislation in 22 states to monitor conservatorship and protect justice and fairness for our elders' basic human rights. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you.
Gail Heisen's bio. Gail Heisen hosts a small, medium at large podcast. She has worked as a successful subject and researcher in parapsychology experiments. She has also explored shamanistic cultures around the world and was initiated as a Mongolian Buryat shaman in 2012. She is the recipient of an honorary doctoral degree from the Mongolian Academy of Sciences. She learned at age 17 that the woman raising her was not her birth mother and that she had had other siblings. So she is an involuntary expert in adults meeting their own family, which is the theme of today's show. So I want to welcome all of us here to get together today. And I want to say that, feel free to interrupt anything that we would like, whoever wants to answer first. But what I'd like to do is tell you about the first question. First of all, for any of our listeners, there's something called Adult Sibling Discovery, which is online, and you can research information about how many things that are happening around this. And as I was reading it, I was confirmed my feelings, which was that the internet, social media, Facebook, and DNA research, such as 23andMe, are making people have an outlet of finding their missing family members. Often these things were kept secret and very difficult to find. Things were sealed, paperwork was sealed, and things are changing in that area also. When children have been adopted, they've been able to now find their parents or get information. So the whole atmosphere around this has changed tremendously. But from my personal opinion and my personal experience, I feel that social media and the internet and these research things are really what's put forth this to happen for a lot of families. And some families have personally spoken their story knowing that the truth could come out because of these social media sites. So I think those are the ways, unless there's something else that I don't know about, this is usually how we found out about someone we didn't know. So what I want to start with is a question that all three of us will answer, and we can start off with you, Karen, and then we can go with Kelly, and then I'll answer last. I just want you to find out or tell us how you found out that there was other family members, or when did you first, and I don't want you to tell me what happened when you finally met them. We'll do that in part two. But what actually happened, or was there things when you were growing up that made you feel like, is something right here, or where is so and so, or something feels strange?
Well,
So
I had a thank you, Gail. I'm so happy to be here. It's wonderful
yes.
with you and Kelly both. I had a very happy, idyllic childhood. I grew up with my sister Debbie. She was there before me, but as it turns out, a year before me. And let me see. The question is, how did I find out about? Oh, and so we had a really lovely childhood. I always knew she was adopted, but there always felt like there was some big secret in the room, or my grandmother would nudge my grandfather sometimes at a party, or one Yom Kippur, my mother was unconsolable, crying in the other room, and I asked her, and she would never tell me. And then once I had a tryst with a guy, and they knew I was out with a guy because there's a psychic sense in my family, and my parents knew I was out with a guy, and they were so upset, and I didn't know why. And they were so upset because of the secret of my mother having had a baby. So this secret existed everywhere and throughout my whole life, and so that's why I mean about the dominoes falling. Like, oh, that's why they were so nuts about that time instead of just normally nuts. It's like there was a hyper attenuation to their emotions about the relationship. And so, as a matter of fact, because of that, I think many of my friends have adoptions or diverse families, and I'm really drawn to people with adoptive, open families, open relationships. So there I'm growing up, and I'm now in my 50s, and I've moved. I'm in New York. I'm in an East Village apartment, as you said, with Philip, and our eldest kid has rejected me throughout their teenage years, and they've moved up to my mother-in-law's house in Massachusetts and thrown themselves into massage school. And now they have graduated massage school, and I've said, I'm coming up to celebrate you. No, no, don't, but I did, and we had a great time. Well, I'm on the train. It's 9/11. I'm on the train back from Boston. The kid finally let me in, right? And it's 9/11, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot it was 9/11 because I was in Boston having a really heartfelt experience, whereas I've been in New York with my family during 9/11. That was really tragic for us. So I see the two lights, and it was just as we go into the tunnel, and I think, wow, I escaped that day. And I get in bed. Hi, honey, I'm home. And it's like 3 hours later, and I'm in bed, and it's 11:30, and the phone rings. And it's my brother-in-law, Raymond, my sister Debbie's husband. And I'm like, Raymond, what happened? And he said, no, no, everything's fine. She's fine. Everything's fine. I said, great, because it's 9/11 and it's 11:30, and I almost got through this day. It was the first time in 16 years. It was 2016. I said, it was the first time I haven't had trauma in so many years. I can't believe you're calling me tonight. What is it? So, Gail, you nailed it before. I have another adopted cousin. She found out about her family through a PI. She had to spend $2,500 to get a private investigator. That's the only other way I know how. My brother-in-law, Raymond, who I knew since I was a teenager, called me to say, I got a phone call. This guy saw us on Facebook. So he connected through social media. After the governor of New Jersey opened up the adoption records for 11 months for people, he couldn't do it for Chris Christie. He couldn't do it for one person. And my brother-in-law happened to be in the audience listening to he went every month to the governor's meeting. So he was like, he goes home, he says, Gail, we can get you records. Her name is Gail too. No, it's Susan. That was a slip of mine, my sister. Her name is Susan. He said, Susan, we can get your records. So what do you mean? So because he's a wealthy insurance guy, he got his PI on it the next day, and she found us, and he went to Facebook to look for Sally Liquor, and there was my sister and me, and he called my sister first. He got my brother-in-law on the phone, and then that night my brother-in-law called me and said, you got another sister.
How old were you then?
You got another sister. I
How
was
old were
I'm
you?
65 now. I was 55 years old, I guess. I was about or 50,
Mhm.
it's 2016. No, it was 2016. I was 56.
So,
But I knew about her because my mother when she
oh,
was 80, my mother went to see a doctor for a heart valve, and she slipped in the room in the interview with the doctor. he said, how many live births have you had? He says, going through the questionnaire. And Sally says, 2. And Debbie says, Ma, I know you love me. I know I'm here forever, but Ma, you forgot I'm adopted. And she says, no, I don't forget, Deborah. And he says, 2. And then Deborah's like, what? And she says, call your sister Karen, have her come to California, because Kelly, they lived in the Valley in California. Have her come to California. I'll tell you the story. And I'm like, Debbie, what do you mean she won't tell you what it's about? She's like, no. I said, okay, I'll be right there. And I came like within 10 days, I got a flight, you know. It was so weird though. She wouldn't tell Debbie. She thought it was my story. I was like, no, Mom, it's your story. And it's Deborah's story. And as a quick summary, I'll tell you lots more as we talk for this hour, but as a quick summary, this October 11th, 2 weekends ago, 2025, my sister Susan had a bat mitzvah.
And this is the newfound sister.
This is the newly found sister. And Debbie and Raymond came from California. And I met my sister's, her kid, one of her kids who she was estranged from. We met the other daughter and we met some cousins. It was a huge, it was,
wow. It was
surreal. As my sister Debbie said, sitting next to me in Temple, it was surreal because this girl standing up there on the bima looked like our mother. Wow. More than she and I do. Just like, yeah, it was great. It's great. It's a huge hole that was never filled for my mother. And she went on every diet on the planet. She was a very large woman. We loved each other. We hugged each other. We had a very physical family. So one of our eldest kids, the Sid, the one I went to celebrate, the massage she does is for people who don't get touched. She massages big people and trans people. They massage because they don't have touch, because she knew from growing up with grandma that there's not enough touch for big people. So my mother, and then Alex, our youngest, said to me, she said, Mom, she can never fill a hole. She lost a child. You have to understand, this is, and it all came, all those dominoes came into my life and then into our kids, into the healing of our kids' understanding of what it is to be in a diverse adoptive family. I'm so blessed. I'm just so lucky.
I just have a quick question. I don't know if it's in Kelly's mind also. What was the deal about the adoption? Why did they adopt someone before you? Was that what was, and that's like just, was that
this is a big deal.
Okay.
Okay, so Sally gave up Susan, gave up a baby. My grandparents took her to New Hampshire to confront the boyfriend. They had the resort next to my family resort. They also hung out in Lakewood, New Jersey, where all the Yiddishkeit hung out. So they were a couple for at least 6 months, and Brooke took her to see him and confront him, and he said his parents denied the whole thing. No, he's in medical school. You can't change his life. Mm-hmm. It was 1959 or 58 when they were pregnant. You can't change his life. Her life, well, and I'm thinking, come on, girls, we know better now. We knew better then. My mother probably didn't know better. She was 16 from Yiddishkeit parents. She probably got pregnant without knowing what was happening. Her sister scorned her whole life. I'm like, why didn't you teach her? You were older, you know? Anyway, she confronted the guy. He went on with his life. She gave up the baby. But while she did, she stayed in an apartment on my grandparents' property. They had a few buildings, and she stayed in a certain apartment. And then years later, when she met my husband, my father, another Freudian slip, years, because they're so alike. Years later, she met my dad, and 5, 6 years later, they couldn't get pregnant. My dad was in the bowling business, and a couple came in on their league, and he says to my uncle, I got my girlfriend knocked up. And my uncle says, great, I have already adopted 2 kids, but my brother wants to adopt a kid. That girl stayed in the same apartment that my mother stayed in while she laid in and missed her junior year of high school. Okay. This girl redid my mother's trauma by staying in that apartment, and my grandmother would bring her water and bring her food knowing she was raising her grandbaby, because she had to leave New Jersey where her family was from. She had to run away. So Debbie was adopted so when my mother told me the story about when I finally got to California, if you want the whole story, we got to California, Sally picks me up at the airport. We switch places. I get in the driver's seat. We go for lunch, and I'm like, what is it? What is it? She says, no, we'll go to lunch. I said, what is it? What is it? As we're driving from the airport to the valley, to the deeper valley, to Sherman Oaks to get to, what is it? Do we have to go to this restaurant, Sally's? Like, what the fuck? You know, she's like, I'm ready. I said, no, I'm on the highway now. You have to wait. And we go, I go right into the parking lot, and I pull in, I put it in park. I look at it, I said, what is it? She's like, you have a sister. I'm like, that's what Raymond said. What are you talking about? Tell me this whole story. So she starts to tell me the story about this boyfriend she loved, having to give up the boy, having to give up the baby, losing her year in high school, not letting her friends know, having how she grew up, then meeting my dad. And I looked at her, I said, Nanny tried to heal you by sequestering this girl and taking her in for you. She tried to heal your relationship. What happened with you and your mother between that time? He never found out. It was obviously too big. You know, she was crying on that table. She told me the whole, as much as she remembered. I wrote it all down. I have notes because I knew I couldn't handle it. I was just jumping out of my skin to know I had a sister, but I didn't know what it was going to be like. And then when I went to see Debbie and say, Debbie, let's hear, Mommy has a story. Mom was still like, no, not Karen, you tell her. And I was like, Ma, she was still so broken about it. It was wild. There's two last little things I want to say. Debbie came to New York, and we both went to Jersey, and we met her together, and it was astounding. And then Susan has couples who live in cousins who live in a couple of cousins who live in California near Deb and Ray. So they've seen each other for the last 5 years, once or twice a year. Oh, wow. And they have no birth relationship. But at this bat mitzvah, I caught them in a photo on my camera. I caught them where my sister Debbie approached my sister Susan. And I don't know what they said, but it was obviously, I love you, and I'm so happy to have you in our family, and I'm so happy that you looked like our mother, like we talked about before, Gail, her hands, her body size. I looked at my new niece. I was like, oh, look at the crinkle in her eye. That's Mommy's crinkle. Wow. You know, it was just a trip. It was just one. It's great. It's for
Well,
us, it's very healing and
yes.
whole. Oh, and maybe you can edit this and put this in at the end, but my sister, Debbie, after me saying to her at 6, at 12, at 17, do you want to find your birth parents? Let's go find your family. We can pay for a PI like Cousin Carrie did. But no, I don't need another family. I have you. I love you. No, you are a family. She said to me at this bat mitzvah, and then she said, you know what? I sent into a company. I'm gonna go find my birth certificate.
Well, that's a perfect spot for us to go switch now to the next.
Talk about this healing,
I
full
want
circle.
more details of our healing after we figure out how we found these people. And I want to say that yours is a double special here because you had an adopted sister. And
Yeah,
so you already had like things were already there were already open things that were not secrets,
I
but
knew from when I was
covering
a
up the
child, my
secrets.
parents would bounce her as my beautiful adopted baby.
Right.
So thankful to have her.
Yes, that's a very beautiful story. And for our listeners who've been adopted, I'm really sure that they're happy to hear such good, well,
Oh, they healed so many people. Yeah.
so
To
now,
become a competent parent, to be able to say, I can do this.
right.
Get pregnant like a textbook picture. That's me, you know.
So I want to see now, I want to hear about Kelly's story, and then I'll give you mine, and I'll try and make mine as short
Great.
as I can, and find out what happened in your growing up and how many siblings that you didn't get to see, or how you got to, or but what the actual meetings are like and the healing I want to talk about in our next round of questions.
Okay. Well, for me, it was a little different because it was before social media. So, and then my dad had been married 8 times. My mother was his 5th marriage.
Wow.
And she passed away in 1966, having 4 children. There were 3 children before me and my siblings that my dad had in another marriage which were 3 boys. 2 were brothers, and 1 was a boy that was birthed a single child. So I had, and I never considered them half brothers. They were always my brothers. But learning as I got older, they were my half brothers. Then after my mother passed away and my dad continued to get married, which Mother's Day we couldn't figure out very well. When Mother's Day came along, we were like, what? Which one was who? But my dad, again, he remarried a couple times after my mom. And one lady that he did marry, he adopted her son, and they had a child together. So then I ended up having a baby sister, and she is my half sister. So there was actually 4 half siblings and 4 blood siblings. Now I was probably around 20 years old, and I was living with a friend, and she pulled out a newspaper, and it had been years since I had seen or even spoke with my half brothers, and had said to me, I think this is your brother. And she showed me the newspaper, and I'm like, my God, that is my brother. And I, never had a phone number for him. I never knew where he lived or any of that. And so, but we always had a bond. When after my mom died, he had a band and he would play in my dad's house. And they tried to help my dad take care of 4 kids. And they were always really gracious and loving and kind. And they'd put us in front of their musical instruments and play to us kids. And we would rock and roll, in front of them. Those were just some little memories as a child. But as I got older and went to go live with my grandparents, my siblings and I lost where they were, and we didn't know where they were. And I guess, I don't know, Gail, if you want me to talk about seeing him now, when we did, he is now passed away, and his brother and my brother Tim has passed away, and my brother Ted. So they're all 3 gone now.
Oh.
But I did get to see them. And I became very close with my brother Ted's daughter, who is my niece, Dominique Rooney. And we had a lot of closeness with family members that you never knew, and I didn't get to know them off of social media. So it was very interesting the way we kind of fell into each other, and the way we would come about getting each other's phone numbers and calling and talking, and the bond and the feeling of excitement and acceptance, and not being afraid to talk to each other. And I can tell you, after getting off the phone with my niece, with her dad, with my brothers, my other 2 brothers, I would just be shaking in joy, being able to talk to them again. And so I know that there's a fear that comes upon a lot of people when you find out certain things about an adopted boy or your siblings you don't really know and you want to know them. And I would say step out of that fear and get into that joy, because it's just waiting for you. And you don't want those people to pass away before you have that opportunity to connect with them. So my dad, being an only child, he wanted to have a lot of children, and he did. And he had 8 kids, and he had 8 marriages, and there was a lot of kids, and there was a lot of moms, and all these different things that came about with all that. But I can tell you honestly, through all of that, it brings you so much joy to have those siblings, or those half siblings, or nieces and nephews and cousins, and people that can keep you in tune to where and what and where they are.
This is exactly what I wanted us to share. And I want to next, after I'll say how I found my story, then I'd like for us to share what it was like to be with them, because that's where the healing begins. And I think it's such an important piece. So if you're good, are you good with that?
I'm good.
Okay, so
Great.
let's see. I grew up just like Karen, with this feeling that I was different and that I somehow didn't even belong with this group. And when I would look at the pictures, I would be the only one with blonde, straight hair. And the rest of my family had looked very Jewish, and I didn't look very Jewish. And I was always being called a shiksa all the time. And, I was young, I was little, I didn't know what shiksa meant, but I could just see the ladies on the boardwalk in Coney Island when we'd be walking down and they'd be saying, oh, look at that shiksa, yeah, look at that shiksa. So I had this feeling of that something was not correct, but I never knew exactly what it was. But I didn't feel like I belonged in the family somehow. But I thought it was that it was my personality because I was very active, talking all the time, full of energy. I was not your quiet type of child and very curious, lots and lots of questions. And I was very different than the family members I was with. So I was trying to figure out how did I fit in with this? And I just always assumed, I don't know how, it just must be that I was just born different than them because they all said, you're my mother, you're my father, you're my sisters and brothers. When I was 17, I had been living on my own since I was 15, so my own apartment, and I was living in the base of my dad's property in a little shed. And he went walking by while I was sitting outside, and I was 17, and he said, oh, oi, I forgot to tell you something with a heavy Brooklyn accent. Your mother wasn't your mother. Margie, my girlfriend that you used to see with me all the time, she was your mother. And Eileen, your cousin, she's your sister. And you also have another 3 or 4, let's see, half brothers and sisters from Margie. But it's no big deal. Don't even worry about it. And he walked off.
My
And I
goodness.
experienced what was like an LSD experience, where sometimes they try to depict it in the film, where all of a sudden in the brain, all these scenes come into your brain all at one time. That's exactly what it was like. All these instances when I asked the mother who raised me, what was my birth like? And she'd say, oh, yours was my easiest one. Well, she hadn't given birth to me. That's
Oh
why.
my God.
I'm just saying, and everything that could happen during the family time, I would get little pieces. I would hear a little something. There would be things that left it unlike, wait, why did
What
that
does that
person
mean?
say that? What does that mean?
Why is that? Right.
So all those scenes flooded my brain when he told me that. And it was like as I said, it was like an LSD experience where everything came at once, all these situations. And I, I was blown away. So fast forward, I decide that I want to meet my mother, and there's a whole series of things that happen, and I finally get to meet her. And I ask her about my other brothers and sisters, the children she's had. Well, she gave away me to my father. She gave away my sister, so she's the only sister that I have from the same mother and father. And she was raised by my great aunt as my second cousin. So I grew up seeing her at the weddings and the bar mitzvahs and all of these different things, and seeing my father put his hands around her face in a caring, touching way that I never saw him do to other children or us. So I remembered that moment. I was thinking, why is he holding her face like that? So of course I didn't know then that she was his daughter, so I had no idea why he had that loving moment. But those things really do click in there. And I think
Right.
this is for all three of us. And they're like little pieces that come in that are of memory.
Right.
And so when I met her, which was not an easy thing, but when I met her, she told me that she had given away her first daughter, which would be my half sister. So I have 8 half brothers and sisters and one full sister. And the child she gave away, I know, is about 1 year older than me because my father said when they conceived me in a motel at Niagara Falls, the baby was laying in the bed with them. So whoever this sister was, I didn't actually meet, but she was there on my moment of conception. And we have no way of finding her. I have to
Oh,
just give it all up to because there's no names. There's no way of us knowing because she gave the child away. And something I want to bring up here for anyone listening is that when we think of what life is like now, we just say, oh, well, why didn't they just keep this one? Or why didn't they do that? Well, because in the 50s, there was a big, being a bastard child was like a big deal. Doing this out of wedlock marriage, not marriage, but affairs and these kinds of things was so frowned upon that often it wasn't necessarily the parent that gave away the child, but was their parent who said to them, oh no, you're not having a child out of wedlock.
Right.
So these are things some people that are younger may not understand about what the climate was like then. It's not
Mhm.
like that now. It's famous movie stars, people have children, they're not married, they combine families, and this is all fine now. But back then it was a taboo.
Right. Mhm.
So when I meet her this next time, well, actually for the first time, I find out that I'll never know whoever this sister was, and I don't know what her name, but I know she's about a year older than me. And then she said, I have a younger sister named Margaret and a younger brother named Fred. But she said, but you will never meet them. I will never allow you to meet them. And I don't know why, but she didn't want me ever to meet them. And consequently, in 2015, 2014 or 15, I think it's 2015, 2014 or 15, I meet my sister for the first time because she calls me up on the phone and she says, I would love to meet you. So I say, I'm coming to New York. I'd be happy to meet you. And we have this one meeting together and this meal, and it's a very wonderful experience I could talk about later. But the point being, I never got to see her again after that because she died.
Oh.
And it was not expected. She was only 54, I think, years old, but she got some sort of a very bad respiratory thing or something like this that attacked her lungs, and she died all of a sudden. Had I not had that one time to meet with her, I would never have had that moment, and then all of a sudden the moment is gone. So I'm just saying that to anyone that, time goes fast and you can't say, yeah, maybe I'll call them next year. Don't wait till next year. That's all I'm saying. Because if we had waited, I never would have gotten to hold and hug this lovely girl that had my features. So it reminded me of me or whatever we can talk about after. So that was how I found out about her, and that's how we met. But she also said to me, you will never meet my brother. To this day, I have no idea why they would not allow me to meet the brother. And I'll just put this last sentence in, and then we're going to go to the meetings with each person. So for me, it was a social media experience. I have Facebook. It's my 70th birthday in May. And I'm saying, how come I don't have any happy birthdays on Facebook? People always send me a happy birthday. It's not one here. So I wait till May 18th thinking, well, maybe people forgot. And it turned out I hadn't clicked the right button. And when I clicked the right button, there were
You were
89
there.
happy birthdays.
Wow.
And in the midst of those 89 was this cousin I met 40 years ago or something. She was 6 years old. And that was the last time I saw this little girl or had any contact. But she knew me somehow through Facebook from some other Facebook or whatever the Facebooky thing, how it got there. And she wished me a happy birthday. And I say to her, well, I'm coming to New York for my birthday this year. I'll be there at the end of May, beginning of June. Would you like to have lunch together? The whole time in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'd really like to meet my brother. But I gave it up about 4 months earlier, finally, after 50 years, because I'd known for 53 years that I've had this brother. And I finally gave up that it's ever going to happen. And I say, I'm not going to ask her since all was so taboo, you can't meet him. And the next text from her comes and she says, would you like to meet your brother? I didn't ask. All I asked, it was in my heart, but not with any words. And when she said that, I said, yes, I would. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a happy birthday text from this brother. And I'll tell the rest of the story of our meeting when we go into that next. But that was how I found that I was going to actually meet this brother. And it was all because of a Facebook happy birthday post.
Amazing.
So I encourage people to reach out to those family members. And now I would like, if it's staying in our order, if Karen, if you could talk about what it was like and describe that meeting together and in every detail that you want to share and how your emotions and how you felt.
Well, I'm happy to, but I feel like I've already overspoken.
And there's never over speaking with us. We talk a lot. We're New Yorkers here.
You know, so
Poor Kelly, she's the one on the.
here we go. But I'm just blown away by these stories. I'm really just so humbled by listening to the two of you. I have to say that. So thank you so much. Meeting Susan, Debbie came and we went to Susan's house. What interested me was that well, it's a suburban house in New Jersey, which I sort of expected, and it looked very typical to what I grew up with. And when you got inside, it was the spitting image of our parents' house. It was identical French chairs and the break front with the sterling silver in it, and the lights inside the break front. Or how about, Kelly, how about the colored lights shining on the special trees in the backyard that my parents had, that they had? The DNA is so rich and so deep, and there's no need to escape it at all. It's really to be celebrated and cherished, you know. And we had this whole conversation about what should I do about the next barbecue area, and I was so excited and tickled to talk with her about, you know, things that I wouldn't do in my yard, but things I grew up with and that our parents would do that she's, you know, she was going to do. It was mind blowing, and it was very, as you said, Gail, is so comfortable and relaxed and natural. And it just, listen, we are on opposite sides, polar opposites, I'd say, politically. At least my brother-in-law, Mark, who is the spitting image of my father. Okay, the same nose, the same hair, the lack of hair. Spitting image of my dad. She's never seen my dad. Okay. My dad isn't her dad, but it's the person who raised our family, you know. Mark and I talk freely and openly and easily about, and maybe it's jabs, because my whole family was always into these teasing moments. That's how we show love, right? And I really rejected that as a teenager. Stop the teasing. And here's this brother-in-law, Raymond, who comes in and he still teases 40 years later. Here's this new brother-in-law, Mark. The way he comes in, it's this jabby teasing thing. So that's our family karma. That's our DNA, what we're supposed to have. And it's very exciting and very enriching, and it makes me feel more whole. It makes me feel, you know, and especially Debbie coming this last weekend, a couple weekends ago, and sitting side by side and experiencing this whole thing together. I didn't think about it at all at first when Debbie came from California, and we were sitting in Susan's backyard having a chummy conversation about, well, you know, your mother did this, and it's unfortunate that we're so sorry that you missed this, and and telling her how identical the whole home in the backyard looked. And Debbie getting in the car afterward with me saying, you know, feeling a little, reflecting and being a little more caustic or brittle, or just, you know, evaluating and putting things neatly in boxes, where I was like an emotional panic. I was all over the place. I was wobbling. I was open. I was, you know, very, very, just very open to the whole experience of allowing this to shower over us and having our, I think I didn't finish the story before, but our mother's reality just come to this place where we could all just be happy and celebrate it instead of feel shame, which she felt her whole life. After Sally had this experience in the doctor's office and revealed her story to Deb, or didn't reveal her story to Deb, there was all these other conversations, as we were saying, like things making sense, about shame and guilt. And as an adult, all I ever really wanted to do, I went to see a doctor who does kinesiology, and she said, what do you want to heal? What do you want to look for? I said, I want to get rid of my guilt and get rid of my shame. I want to get rid of the loss of my mother. I love her dearly, but I don't want to feel pain every single day of my life. And I want to get on with my life. I want to stop procrastinating. So what I think what happened to me because of this big shadow in the room was there was always a personality that I took on, also in comfort with being an adoptive family. I took on this comfort of things will happen later. And like you say, Gail, there's no time like now. We have today. If I had 8 that I had to find and talk with, Kelly, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'd do. The 2 of you have such good families. It's so exciting. And Gail, listening to you tell the story and realizing, wait a minute, your brother just came, all this other stuff with your brother that I just experienced in New York with you. Like, whoa, this is who you're talking about? Wow. You know, it's, yeah, for anybody watching or you know, tuning into this, they really, it answers so many questions, so much more so that here's my sister Debbie, who was always fine and comfortable and had this neat little box, and has finally decided to open up the ribbon and let the walls fall open and say, let me find the names on my birth certificate. I may never find them, but I'll know their names, which might give me an answer to their nationality, or, you know, some answers that our uncle, who was on my father's side, who also teased and teased, couldn't tell us the truth about who was this couple who came in. All I know from you is that he knocked up his girlfriend and you need a family to give the baby to. Phew, what a relief that we're that family, you know? So, yeah, we both really, I don't call her enough. I was sort of waiting for the bat mitzvah to come and I was like giving her space. And now they took a trip because that's what they do. They go and they taste wine and find food around the world. But I could leave a voicemail, you know, and call her more readily.
Who was the bat mitzvah for?
Well, okay. So in our little story, I'll try to be quick. I'm sorry. My mother, Sally, had during our lifetime was a lot of competition for my grandparents' affection. Not knowing Susan was in the room, not knowing the story, and then there was a third uncle, the 3 family members. So there was always competition to get with for them to be closest to my grandparents, and that seeped into the 5 cousins. Okay, so at one point, my mother and her sister stopped talking because one of my cousins, my aunt's daughter, was moving to Israel, and shekels fell out on the counter, and so did Nanny's ring. And my aunt flipped out. What do you have it for? It's supposed to be mine. Well, Poppy gave it to me. And all of a sudden, so they stopped talking. And we had baby naming, and one would be on one side and one would be on the other side, and you'd be in the photo with the naming, and then they wouldn't talk to each other. It was horrible for 20 years. And these were people who knew each other, loved each other so deeply, and were so mad at each other for this experience of growing up. All along, Susan is not known about. Susan is not discussed. She's still this major elephant in the room, okay, and all this anger. And they don't talk to each other. And then finally, before my aunt leaves for Israel, I know the story. I found out about Susan. I'm holding my aunt's hands at her house saying goodbye. I've collected the lalik she wants me to have that matches my mother's. Thank you. And I take it and I'm holding her hands and I say to her, I know my birthright now. Everything is fine. And she says, what do you mean? And I said, well, I understand my birthright. And she said, what are you talking about? And she looked at me with such a blank eye. And I said, I just know where I'm from. And I love my family. And I know you're going to Israel and you're going to have an amazing time. And in that split second, I decided this is not Aunt Lila's story or Judy's story who moved to Israel. This is my story and Debbie's story and Sally's story. Judy's life moved on, like my other siblings and cousins. Like you had this cousin who was your sister who grew up as your cousin. I hope you feel, do you feel the cousinness or the sisterhood? It's like we feel a certain way. This was my cousin who I grew up with, who should have been as close as a sister, but because of this shame and guilt, I'm not upset that she moved far away from me and I don't talk to her all the time. I miss her now that we're in our 60s. I'm like, what did we do? The point is, I'm sorry, let me get back. Here's my sister. I talk too much. Here's my sister, Susan, newly found, grew up separately, has 2 daughters of her own, and doesn't speak to one of her daughters for 15 years. Mm. She's estranged from her daughter. So at this bat mitzvah party, the daughter has come back 4 months ago. She's come back into the life for her own reasons.
So is it Sally who was getting bat mitzvahed?
So it's Sally's daughter, first daughter, Susan, who never got bat mitzvah because in the 50s or 60s, girls didn't do that. And when I was come of age in the 70s, it was the hip thing and expensive thing in the Jewish community as a fundraiser. You'd have a bat mitzvah, would go to Israel. God bless them all.
Right.
Okay. At a certain point, I woke up and I understood the spirituality, but not the religiosity of it all. And I still have a lot of Yiddishkeit in my life because I love the culture that I was born into. But I realized it was just the luck of the draw that I was born here. I could have been taken by another family and hopefully as loved as deeply. But because my mother had this hole, and she would have loved Susan, she would have been very, very happy, but she wasn't able to. She wasn't able to open that up. And that was because, as you say, of the time. Time has, there's so many onion skins have peeled and the time has changed and come forward. And even though we still feel like some things have not progressed and we're back at square one, the idea of being in a diverse family and marrying outside of your religion or your gender or your
race,
ethnicity, your race, has really opened up. And we can do that now. We can fall in love and be in love for love's sake. And so loving the people who share our DNA, who are totally different than us, but share our DNA, is a whole lot of fun. It's just a trip. It's a trip.
okay.
And Debbie, what part of not understanding my life was that I knew Debbie was adopted, but I didn't understand why we never got along as the way I hoped we would. It's because we were just born in different places on the planet, but she literally is born of different genes than I am. And I only knew that when I met Susan and we were like this. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, this is wild. Like a magnet. And Debbie and I have formed a magnet, and we actually decided after our parents died to continue that magnetism. We chose to stay together. We knew we had to have each other.
When you met Susan then for the first time and you looked into each other's face in that 10 or 15 minutes, can you tell me what happened to you visually and emotionally, what you saw in meeting her?
Oh, it's so interesting.
Two grown women.
Yeah, well, it was more holding her and hugging her and feeling like I had the chance to hold my mother again, but she's in miniature. So she's literally, I mean, and they always used to say growing up, they would say to Debbie, oh, you look like Sally, and Karen, you look like Chick. And the funny part was Debbie was adopted, so how could she look like my mother? But she did in certain minimal ways, but more than me. And so when we meet this person who's a mini me, literally, same hands, same arms. Her body's a little more effed up than my mother's, so she doesn't walk the same way, but she's got the same cankles. she's got the same beautiful hands and the same way she uses her jaw. And she's got my mother's eyes to the color.
And isn't that,
I look in her eyes or I hold her and I feel like I'm hugging my mother.
Isn't that
extraordinary?
After losing a mother, to be able to embrace a new person,
it's extraordinary.
Have the feeling again of like, I haven't completely lost my mom.
And yet I've never stopped talking to Sally. I've never stopped getting messages from Sally or talking with Sally or having experiences with Sally in the world, even though she's physically not here. But this just makes it so much more close. It's one step closer that I never knew existed. So it's so great to grab it. And they're in Greece right now having the time of their lives, but they'll come home and I need to see her in November. I need to see her every month and make a plan. It's not hard to drive the 2 hours. It's just not. And it's just a priority that I have to elevate because we're starting to feel our age.
There's a bunch of things you said in that I'm going to repeat when I give you my sharing because I had the same.
Please do. And I'll try to zip it now.
Very comforting when you share a story with another person and know you had the same, there's positive and negatives that happen in these situations, but sharing the same positive is a beautiful thing.
So, the only negative is knowing that my brother-in-law doesn't vote the same way I do.
Well,
he's a great wine collector. It's all good.
Let's hear Kelly's story about what experiences she had when she got to meet her siblings.
Well, what to be able to relate like we are is a fantastic thing because the relatability is your DNA. And DNA, as we know now, because of science, with DNA really lives on through our blood.
Mhm.
And it's a very special thing. Now with my half brothers, my one eldest half brother, Mickey Jr., my friend who I was living with pulled open the newspaper and said, "I think this is your brother, and look what he's doing." And I opened up the newspaper, and he was playing with his band at Knott's Berry Farm in Southern California.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, I've got to get all my siblings that I can, and we've got to go to Knott's Berry Farm, and we've got to surprise him. And so we did. It was us 4 kids. It wasn't all of us, but it was the 4 of us from my mom. And we went, and I went and found out where we could sit and where we would be when we see him walking up to where he needs to go. And so I am looking at everybody that's walking towards this area, and I'm looking for him. He was very tall, unlike me. I'm about 5 foot. My dad was only about 5'3". Mickey's was this towering, gorgeous, blonde looking guy, cowboy style. And all of a sudden, out of all these people, I see him. And he's walking towards us, and the exhilaration
Mhm.
that I felt in my heart, and my heart beating faster and faster. So when he walked up, I just stood up and I walked over to him, and I looked up in his eyes and I said, "Mickey?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, and he lifted his hat and he looked at me further and he said, "Kellyanne."
Oh,
And I went, "Mickey, it's me,
oh,
it's Kelly." And he had the
oh.
same exact experience that I was. And we stood there in the moment, and he put his arms around me and he held me and he said, "Where's the rest of you?" And I said, "They're here, Mickey." And he goes, "They are? Where are they?" And I said, "They'll be back. They just went to the bathroom." So we 4 kids got to have this ultimate experience of love and bonding that we actually always had since we were little,
Mm.
but it was resurrected in that moment. And we hung out after that. We found out where he lived. We would always go to his house. My former husband and I, my daughter, we would always hang out with him. And he was this great musician. And so he always played the guitar. And we always felt so sincerely loved by him being the eldest of all the kids. And his brother, Timmy, we were always close to Timmy too, and to Ted. And when my dad passed away, unfortunately, my brother Tim, Mickey's brother, had passed away on my dad's birthday.
Oh.
And my dad could hardly take it. Before he died, he could hardly take it. He and my brother were very, very close, Tim and my dad. And Mickey couldn't come to my dad's service. He just couldn't handle it. But my other brother, Ted, my niece's dad, Teddy came. And my half baby sister, Jonelle, came from North Carolina.
Mm.
So we got to see some people. And unfortunately, it seems to be always at a funeral, you get to see people that you've always wanted to and you hadn't in a long time. But we all had this bond that we knew that had never been broken.
Oh.
And we were so grateful for it. And to this day, I'm very much in touch with my half baby sister, Jonelle. And unfortunately, our eldest brothers are gone now, but we talk a lot about how that bond is there and how dad really loved that. My dad would light up when he would see all his kids together. He loved having that kind of family, that kind of brood around, because he was an only child. So he wanted to have a lot of kids, and he did. And I feel just very blessed. I feel honored that I have my siblings and that I can relate to them, and I can relate to you both about that kind of love. And again, I just want to reiterate that if anybody is listening and they're in fear of stepping through that place, don't be. Even if you were rejected, don't be, because you will still be profoundly blessed because you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
And so I have so much to be grateful for. And I have a beautiful daughter that's 39, and she's so good to me. And I try to, influence her that she has many aunts and uncles, that love her too. And she's got some cousins that are in an up and coming cousins too. My sister's daughter's going to have a baby here soon. So I feel very blessed that even though, we all go through some rough and traumatic times throughout our lives, that we can come to these places at this age now and we can turn things around. We
How
can
old were you when you had
saw
the
Mickey.
meeting at Knott's Berry?
That I was in my mid to late, let's see. I was actually, Gail, that's not true. I was in my 30s.
30s.
Uh-huh. And I'm 66 now. So we hung out with Mickey quite a bit after we reconnected. And it was great. And he told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
Of
Like you're
course.
talking about, he could relate because he was a lot older than I was. So he was relating to me about things I didn't know about my dad or this and that. And he could imitate my dad and we would laugh, and just have the greatest of times. So again, I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to go and we all did go and surprise him like that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because I have this wonder in my same question, I'm wondering this for all three of us. What was going on in the minds of the other persons? Like
Mhm.
what was going on in Mickey's mind? What was going on is it Susan? Correct.
Mhm.
Susan's mind. And in mine, it was like, what was going on in Fred and Margaret's mind?
Well,
Like,
I asked Mickey.
yes.
Mickey was just stumped. He could not stop looking at all of us. And he said, "This is not over. We're only beginning. You guys are going to come over to the house. We're going to hang out. We're going to have dinner tonight." I mean, he wouldn't let us go. And he didn't want to let us go.
Right.
And I get it. I felt the same way.
So
So
do you think, so I'm trying to figure out in my story, what kept them from reaching out?
I
Like
think fear, Gail.
fear?
I think, yeah. And after hearing certain stories from this one or that one, or somebody said this or somebody said that, we kind of get locked in and it disables us. It makes us handicapped to it.
Oh, it
Fear
does.
does that.
Fear is the worst.
So
Yeah.
that's why if we can step, and I can say this because I've been fearful most of my life, like I'm sure we all are here and there. But once we step through that glass of that and break that glass down, wow, some really great things can come of it.
Fear is blocking us from growing
Yes.
and healing.
Yes.
And what is the fear? What are we afraid?
Exactly.
I'm not sure what we're afraid of.
We're
So
afraid. We've just heard so many things here and there. And then once we take it upon our own shoulders to do that, like your brother did, Gail,
mhm.
like you did, it causes a catechism of joy. It really does.
Really
Yes.
does. Yeah. Gail, did you ever find out why you weren't supposed to meet him? What was the
Well,
No, it was I was being kept from it from fear. I always wondered how Mickey was and Timmy was and Teddy
no, I
was.
mean, like, was it the mothers? I'm just saying, like,
Oh no, they were gone, but I felt I don't know, I guess it was inadequate. I felt less than. I shouldn't bother my brothers. They don't care about me like that. That's why I'm saying, but it was really when I really get down to the lowdown of it, it was fear.
right?
And that's why we have to. So when my roommate saw that in the newspaper, I was like, oh my God. She goes, "Kelly, you have to go." So it was my roommate who really encouraged it. You really have to go and see him. Do you know what that's going to do for him? I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. I don't know. What's that going to do for him? What's it going to do to me? What's it going to do to the rest of us? And
right?
it was that fear started bubbling up again. But she was very adamant about it. And I'm so glad she's still in my life today, that girl. And I'm grateful for Patty doing that.
So other family members, like they had children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brothers. Didn't they
Mhm.
say, I want to know my cousin Lacey, or I want
My
that's
Mickey
the part I'm
Jr.
always wondering,
Mickey
like,
Jr. had no children, and neither did his brother Tim.
oh,
My brother Teddy did. Dominique is my niece, and
love
yes, and she's got two kids too. So I have cousins. Lacey's got cousins. That's what I was trying to say was, but Mickey never had any kids, and neither did Timmy.
Hmm.
But they had us, and
Right.
and after we all got together, it was over with. I mean,
Right.
it really was. And I think they were afraid too. I remember talking to my brother Timmy, and I was like, Tim, how come we never really got together? He goes, Kelly, it's a shame. We have wasted, and there's that word shame. We have wasted so much time.
Right.
And I
Right.
said, we are so fortunate that we
Mhm.
have this time together.
Oh, it's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
So did you have 10 or 20 years after that he lived, or
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
good.
Just about that 20 years.
Oh, great. Oh, that's such a happy
It is. It really is. My brother Tim had a ranch with my dad out in Lancaster, California.
Oh yeah.
And my brother, his brother Mickey used to play at the Palomino. He was in Honeysuckle Rose with Willie Nelson and Diane Cannon.
oh,
And he was, my dad used to say I should have never named Junior. And I'd be like, why, Daddy? And he'd say, because it just didn't do him any good to be a junior. If he would have just, if I would have given him another name, he goes, because your brother was such a fantastic guitar player. And he really was. He was a very gifted person.
Mm.
I met them. I met a couple recently that he was on my podcast, and I went out to meet him and his wife, and they were both single children, and they had the same view as your dad. They have 6 kids now, and it's like every 2 years I think they have. And when I visited them, she said, if we have room to get 1 or 2 more, I'm giving birth again. And I was like, oh, six
Oh,
is
yeah.
enough.
Oh,
This
yeah.
thing of when you've been a single child, they want huge families, where some single children don't even want any other children, or they would just have one single child like themselves.
Right.
Exactly.
Ones that wanted giant families really had lots and lots of children.
Yes. Very interesting.
So is there anything more you want to say about
Um,
the closeness and the feelings of what happened during that day?
it's hard to put into words because it feels like it comes all from the heart.
Mhm.
It's very emotional. You feel that joy inside. You feel a little jittery. It's almost like butterflies when you're falling in love, but it's a different type of love because it's your family member, but it's a reconnecting love. It had always been there. We always, even as small kids, looked up to my brothers, with their band. We used to think they were so cool, the Rooney brothers. They had a band and we used to look up to them. And that was always scary too, thinking, oh, I want to reconnect with them. So, but yeah, again, drive right through that fear and get to the joy because it's there and it can be.
Yes, that this is um shall I share now?
Please.
Yes.
Yes.
So, as I said earlier, I knew when I went to New York this past May, June, that I was going to have this date with these cousins I hadn't seen in 40 years. And this brother who I'd never even spoken to on the phone or had ever even seen a photograph of in 53 years. So I only knew his name was Fred. I didn't know how old he was, what he looked like, what he sounded like, nothing. So this very nice cousin Erica was the one who, I tell her, she was courageous, and I can't thank her enough because we owe it all to her. This girl that I met once when she was a little girl, 6 or whatever, and she was told as well never to tell him about us and never to tell her cousin about any of the story that she knew about.
Uh-huh.
And she decided to break the, I feel like it's for me, there's parts that I feel I understand my families that I grew up with, how they were told never to tell me. But growing up where you know that everyone knew your truth and you didn't,
Mm,
it's hard not to feel a little pissed off about that, like you were betrayed.
Absolutely.
And I love all my family very, very much, but I don't love what they did to me in that sense,
mm,
that betrayal of holding my secrets.
Absolutely.
And I never liked feeling that I was holding other people's secrets. And it was this feeling like I don't want to die. All of it, I don't know when I'm going to die. It could be tomorrow. Could have been, I could have died 10 years ago, or could be another 20. Who knows? So if I don't, I'm carrying this with me for all these years.
mhm,
I was finally at a place of letting it go, and that's when it came in.
Wow.
After I truly let it go, I had no charge on it, and it was like that. It's never going to happen. I finally accepted it,
mm,
and that's when it actually happened.
mhm.
So say I was very surprised, and I realized I wanted to talk to him once on the phone before we actually physically met in person. I wanted to hear his voice and just see how it felt. So while we were in my niece Karen's apartment in the East Village, not far from where Karen's family apartment is, I spoke to him on the phone, and it was just like what you're saying. It was the excitement, like, even though it's your brother, it's not a relationship like you're going to a boyfriend, girlfriend or something.
Right.
The feeling was that way. The
Yeah.
tingling excitement inside my body, the amount of energy that was surging through me when our voices talked to each other. And even though he was not anything to do with my father, we have the same mother, he sounded just like my dad.
Oh my
So it
gosh.
was like it's this Brooklyn, with the incorrect English and the whatever's the way, the volume, the choice of words, the never finishing a sentence. You don't use all the words in a sentence because you're talking so fast. You just leave a few words out because New Yorker, you'll get the gist. So I'm listening to this voice and going, oh my God. So it's like this comfort of like the sound of my father's voice, even though it's not biologically anything of him. They
Yeah.
both came from the same cultural experience in Brooklyn or wherever it was,
Right.
Queens. And we make up that we're going to meet at a diner, and the cousins are arranging this whole thing, and we're going to meet in Queens. And it's the day before I'm going to fly back home to California. So I know we're only going to have this one afternoon visit. And I know he works a full-time job, so it has to be on a Saturday or Sunday. So I think I see him on Sunday, and we leave back to New York either Monday or Tuesday. And when I come into the diner and the two of us see each other for the first time, I'm sorry if I get emotional, but I got emotional about your brother too.
Yeah.
It's just like a pure loving feeling of embracing. It's not forced. It's not like we couldn't not touch each other. We couldn't not sit with our arms around each other.
Right.
But then when I'm looking at the menu and I'm saying to myself, God, they're all going to think I'm crazy here, but I'm going back to California. I'm in a diner. I got to have chicken parmesan and chicken soup. And I'm saying to myself, what a crazy order for a luncheon. Who wants a chicken parmesan and a chicken soup? And before the waiter comes to me for the order, he goes to my brother and says, "What would you like?" And he says, "I'll have the chicken parmesan with chicken soup." I mean, it's an expensive menu. There was a million things he could have picked.
Identical.
Right. So in fact, I'm going to show you this picture because this is the
God.
actual photo of
I
when we
love it.
first meet with our chicken parmesans.
Look
That's
at
great.
that.
And so I'm sort of blown away by this. And
And you guys look like each other.
then we're looking at each other, and he's having this feeling of he only had in his mind him and his sister Margaret, and that was it. So when she died, she and him were living together. So he was there caring and loving her, and then having to lose her.
Oh,
So there
wow.
was somewhere in that time that she told him, "You have a sister in Northern California." She didn't give him my name. She didn't tell him where I lived. I mean, she had my phone number, my address. I've been sending her my homemade jams and jellies. He never knew of any of this.
Wow.
So if I had not reached out, he said he didn't know what to do. He didn't think anyone in the family knew. And just like all these taboo things, he was afraid to bring this subject up. But thank goodness for this Erica, who said, when she told me this, she said, I don't know if the family's going to all hate me now because I connected the two of you together. I don't know what they're going to think of me, she said, but I had to do this. And I could not thank Erica enough, because without her, this never would have happened. I know for sure. And without her connecting us, she put herself in her relationship in the family on the line by doing that. And
Yeah.
that takes courage.
Yes.
I wrote her back. I said, what you have done is a beautiful thing. Please, please hug yourself and tell yourself, wow, I've made a difference in someone else's life right now by doing this. So I can't say enough thanks to her for that. But what she was up against in doing it, and in her mind thinking, should I, shouldn't I, should I tell her, should I? So when she saw the two of us together, we had an incredible, wonderful luncheon, and it went on for hours and hours. And all we did is, he's just like the brothers you're talking about. He's a teasing, joking, fun loving guy. There was no drama. I mean, I was crying the whole time. He kept saying, don't cry, don't cry. I said, I can't help it, you know.
Yeah, I'm crying.
I can't help it. Don't cry, don't cry. But the loving feeling, you could not cry from this moment. So I didn't want to really come apart, and we didn't know where could we go after this diner. And I realized my nephew, I said, where are we? And is this Rego Park? Oh, I think my nephew lives here. We called him up, and he lived less than 5 minutes from where we were eating.
Oh my God.
So he said, sure, you can come and hang here. So we say goodbye to the cousins because we wanted a little time alone.
Mhm.
We go out. He's driving the same car that I drove for the last 9 years, the Toyota Highlander.
Oh
I'm
my
I get in the car, and he keeps it immaculate like I do. It doesn't matter how old it is, it still looks like it's new, right? Drives, great driver. Get over to my brother-in-law's, to my nephew's, and we have this wonderful time together. We take a lot of pictures, and then he parts, and I don't know what's going to happen next. But that was June 7th, and now it's October 21, and we have never not communicated every single day since that first day on June 7th, whether it's a
Yeah.
text or a phone call or photos. And in the midst of it, in August, he came out here for 10 days, and he didn't know what he was coming into. He was scared at the airport, and he was going to meet his nieces and nephew that he had never met. He was going to hang out with his brother-in-law, who turns out has the same brilliant mind as him when it comes to films and movies, like a walking encyclopedia of all this stuff.
Wow.
Him and my son's been taking care of our orchard and driving these big trailers around, hauling, tons of apples on them and just learning. This is like his profession. He drives all these amazing 10-wheelers for the county of Nassau. He's the one plowing up the things and all this. And I wasn't sure when he came here, did he know the rest of our story? And I didn't want to hold the rest of these secrets anymore. It's exhausting. And I had to go with him. Like, after he was here for a few days, I just felt like we went out for an ice cream cone, and it just felt like the right place. And I said, I don't know if you know, though, our mother was a criminal with my father. I don't know if you know that our mother and my father were in love together for more than 20 years of an affair, and they saw each other back and forth. I said, did you ever wonder when she left where she went when she came to visit us in California in the 60s? And he said she always was going to see my grandma in Florida. I said, well, she was actually coming out here to see my father.
Wow.
So I'm telling him what the pieces he didn't know about. And then I said, and actually, we have two more sisters. And he said, actually, someone in the family told me that, but they never told me anything about it. He didn't know that it was my sister and that the other one was another sister that none of us will meet. So I got to tell him the pieces of his story. And when it finished, I felt like 100 pounds was lifted off me. And now if I die tomorrow, I have a free, clean slate that I'm not holding anybody's secrets. Because I feel that, some people say, oh, blah, blah. Well, I'm the kind of person that would want to know all these things. Other people don't. And that's
Mhm.
the other part I want to share, which is the negative side, is when I told my sister after everybody was dead, after I was given permission to finally tell her that she was truly my sister, and I did it stupidly at a bar mitzvah. It's always a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah.
Always a bar
Not a
mitzvah,
bat
right?
mitzvah. And I told her how all of it was true and how, my father was her father and how, we have a mother. And if she wants to know anything, I'm happy. And I told her about the rest of the other brothers and all this. And she said, I will never be your sister. I don't want to know any of those people. I don't want to know anything about them. And I will never, and I will always just be your cousin. And from all the years of having to hold that inside at every wedding, knowing that she was my sister, and looking at the two of us looking alike, and I don't look like the family I grew up with, and here's someone who is, that I got to pretend and pretend and pretend. And I did that because I was being gracious to the people who said, you're never
Right,
to tell her.
right.
Her mother, who raised her, my great aunt, said, when I die, if you want to tell her after I'm dead, then that's fine. Well, unfortunately, it created distance. And so now we do not see each other. I haven't spoken to her in more than 10 years. When we saw each other at the last event, I couldn't really emotionally deal with it anymore. And we had a big bar mitzvah invitation just now, a week ago, that I should have attended in San Diego, where she would be there with her children, who she finally told that I'm their aunt in
Mm.
their, they're adults in their 30s. And there's some kind of a barrier. There's like a thing there, like, and I don't know what it is and why I've always been presented as I'm always the person who knew about everything. I knew all of these stories since I'm young. So
Mhm.
I'm the one that was carrying all this. I was trying to do all the right things by giving out the information when it seemed like the appropriate times, but I wasn't prepared for the rejection she gave me. It really crushed me. I somehow thought that she was going to say, oh, she was raised as an only child. Now she's got a family. Now she's got my brothers and sisters who she's known her whole life, who she likes very, very much. Now we can all be like, just,
Normal.
yeah. But that was not in her ability to do that. And I've had to release and forgive that for whatever's in her heart, that she can't open it enough to allow what is the truth. This is just truth. The
Mm.
truth is those two people gave birth to you. They're the ones who
Truth
make.
really will set you free, but it's like we said, Kelly, it's the fear, and it's created these personalities that they hold on to. Like, well, if I allow this in, I'll have to feel more. Because Debbie, my sister who was adopted, who I described earlier as sort of compartmentalized, it's because she was hurt deep down inside, as in her subconscious. Was she abandoned, or why did she get let, when when you're adopted, there's all these questions of identity, right?
Uh-huh.
And when we met Susan, she really wasn't so interested. She loved that Susan looked like Sally, but she said, I don't need a sister, I have you. Whereas I needed to know Susan. I needed, and now it's taken these years for Debbie to come around and realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a huge piece of my puzzle to why I might not feel so emotional, why emotions might be locked up and not allow myself to love deeply, freely, and
Well,
without fear,
I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that her issue is that if she accepted me as her sister, she feels somehow like she's violating her parents, that those are the parents who raised her, which I feel they are also, just like I feel the mother who raised me wasn't my biological mother, but that was the woman who raised me, so that's the mother.
Mhm.
But
Gail, before we
she-
met Susan, Debbie asked me, how would Sally react? What would Sally think? I don't think it's fair to Sally that we meet her.
oh,
Debbie had similar, your instinct is really on target. Debbie was sure that it would have upset Sally so. And now it's this whole 180 to, oh, Mama would have loved this. She would have been sitting here at the bat mitzvah with the same purple yarmulkes, the same purple fucking yarmulkes, girls. But it took Debbie a long time to open up her heart and her mind to it. A lot of letting go of who she might have been. She changed her job. She and her husband, they're good, but they're more independent. But she had to let go of things.
well,
to
that was my
allow it.
feeling with this. After I got over how
I was
painful
the same.
it felt to be rejected that way, I then say, I wish her well. I'm not willing to be with her in any more of these family functions, pretending and whatevering. But
Because
my
it hurts
heart
too
is
much.
always open.
Mhm.
But
If
Gail,
you ever
it's like the
wanted to call and
acceptance.
say, Gail, I'd love to reconnect. That's who I am. My heart would be open. But I got to a point where I had to let go of that because I kept being repeatedly hurting when I think that moment was going to happen when I saw her, and then it would just be, oh hi, how are you, hugging a kiss.
Demanding her truth, which is so, not your truth. It's painful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
But
accept it. And
yeah.
I just wanted the audience to know that there can also be the negative experience. And I have just one thing I want to read here, and then I'm going to go on back with you guys, which is I told my brother that when I wrote a book about my life, relatives from my mother's side that I knew, some cousins, all said, don't ever publish that book. You're going to ruin the lives of all these people. So I kept having all these people telling me, don't publish a book. You're going to ruin everyone's life. I'm thinking, this is my life. I'm allowed to write about what's happened in my life.
That's right.
So I asked my brother Fred today, I said, I'm going to be on this podcast with my dear friends, Kelly and Karen. And I was just wondering if you could just write me a paragraph of what it was like for you when we met. So I just want to read you what he wrote. And it was very touching. I was surprised, this is Fred's writing. I was surprised that I had a sister when my sister Margaret told me about you, Gail, in 2015. But I wish they never kept it a secret from me for so long. I feel that I was cheated. I wished I had met you a long time ago. Yes, it was nice talking to you on the phone for the first time, and we had a very good time and we laughed with each other. That made me feel good when we talked. But I am very happy that we met in person in New York in June. Yes, I was a little nervous and shy, but we had so much in common and we had a great day. We enjoyed each other, which I will never forget. When I came to visit you this past summer, I had a great time with you and your family and friends. I enjoyed my time there. I will never forget the great time we had in my first visit. You and your family and friends made me feel welcome, which I really liked.
Oh,
And I just wanted to share something from the other person's view of
yeah.
how they were feeling. And also, when we talk about DNA, of all my brothers and sisters, and I can't say for the one that I never met, so I don't know what she might be like. When he started to tell me things about himself, it was exactly me. And I have not had that connection with any of my brothers and sisters. And specifically, we're talking about the connection of psychicness and death. So it turns out, since he's a little boy and since I'm a little girl, we both saw death as children. He talked about seeing the Grim Reaper when he was 3 or 4 years old. He talked about hearing spirits. He talked about how spirits come to him now. We talked about how spirits can come in an animal or a bird. And I can tell you, none of my other brothers and sisters have said to me, oh, yeah, daddy comes to us as a hawk. Well, when a tail hawk comes here, it's my dad, and I know it's my dad.
And that's not a coincidence, Gail.
It's no coincidence. And he
It's
says
no
to me,
coincidence.
our mother, and I've never had anyone say our mother to me before.
Wow.
And I've never had anybody say nice things about her because my family's always assumed she was a horrible person, that she gave away her children, which I found out from meeting with him. It was her mother that forced her to give the children away, not her. And that she never wanted to do that. And so no wonder she became
Wow.
an alcoholic. No wonder she was miserable. No wonder she had such a sad and lonely life. But with him, she had some happiness. So I got to hear that my mother was a good mother, that she actually took care of him and had his back when he was a child until she got to be such an alcoholic that she couldn't take care of herself or him or anyone else.
All
But up
makes so
until
much
that
sense.
point, he said she had my back. She always protected me. To hear that mother that I thought was some
She
terrible
loved you,
person, she loved him.
and she loved all of you.
It
Yeah.
just, it was just such a thing to know.
It is.
And then to find out that we're both psychic with the spirits and the dead people, it's not a common thing, it's like,
No, it's not.
it's not with the dead. So I decided to end our trip because we did so many things together. I decided to end our trip where I did my shamanic blessing with him. And I said to him, I don't know if spirits will come or what will happen, but I'll do this blessing with you. And when we do the blessing, no spirits came. And I said, this is strange. I said, but no spirits showed up. So we finished the thing. It was very nice and lovely. And he leaves, goes down the steps. And as he goes down the steps, I hear a voice in my head say, the spirits are coming to him tonight when he goes to bed. I said, okay, I'm not going to tell him. Next morning, he wakes up, and the first thing he says to me is, oh my God, Gail, last night the spirits came to me in the bedroom. I wasn't sure if it was true or not. I looked around, it was the middle of the night. Bruno, your dog wasn't in here. I saw there's no people, and I kept hearing someone saying, hello, hello, hello. He said, and there's no one there. And then I said to him, I got a message that the spirits were going to come visit you. I didn't tell you, but I know it's true because you're just telling me now it happened. So that's
Wow.
the extra beautiful thing that's happened in this relationship. So I'm stopping on that
I
message.
love it. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And something that was negative was keeping you apart so that you would not hear the loving things about your mother. Because I can relate to that, Gail, because of the relatability that we all have.
Mhm.
When my mother was killed, the media spun a big negative on my mother,
Mm.
as you know.
Yes.
And it
And
was
you were
all a
10.
lie.
You were 10, right?
I was
It was
7
all a
years
lie.
old.
7.
And it was all a lie. And
Oh,
my grandparents were wounded from that lie. And a lot of people were wounded from that lie.
right.
And so there's a negative, like you said, that it seems like there's a negative spirit wants to hold back that love and that joy that wants to come forward.
It's the opposite. The love and joy are opposite of the lies and
Uh-huh.
secrets.
Uh-huh.
So when you were talking before and about the secrets, and I remember when I was a kid, I had this experience with my parents where they thought I was running off with a boy and they were all upset about it. I I actually was running off with a boy. I was smooching with him, but it was all it was. We were just kissing. We didn't anything further than that. But I
Uh-huh.
told them a lie. I said, no, I didn't. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I was 17. And then I realized, oh, I can never lie again in my life because the lie will kill you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lie or a secret will just fester inside you. It will kill you ultimately. And
Yeah.
fascinating hearing you both talk about it because it's the same experiences I've had.
Well, Kelly's experiencing it on a global, huge level because she's the daughter of a world famous
International.
man who's been in more films and TV than any other actor in history.
Right.
So she's had to deal with the media. I mean, I only had to do with family that was lying. It wasn't in the newspaper, they weren't saying
Right.
in the news, oh, she did
Right.
this, she did that. She's had to deal with. So has there been any change in that? Is there going to be a change in the course of the history of telling that story so that it gets corrected?
Yes. Yes. As you know, Gail, I've spoken to you about that a little bit. But
So
that has been to let Karen know, is that has been something that's been on my heart since I went to live with my grandparents after my mother died, was that I wanted my mother's name cleared of what the media had said.
Oh, wonderful.
And
Yeah.
so actually that opportunity is coming around the corner.
Oh, great.
And so I feel very, very good about that.
Oh, that's huge.
It's big time.
It's huge.
And it's actually, which Gail, I've said it to you a couple times, it's a love story, not the evil story that the media wanted to rack up. So,
you know, Hollywood and their
And
newspaper dollars, right?
even one of his, even his last wife shared with Kelly the love that he had for her mother.
yeah.
That to me was can you share that?
When you go through when you literally go through that kind of a trauma, and kids and people have, when you go through a murder,
Yeah.
and my father and we kids were down the hall when that happened. My dad used to say, you know, that he could have come down the hall and killed you all. This was a man that my dad was friends with, and unbeknownst to my mother, was completely fascinated with her. And he got to the point of, if I can't have you, nobody will.
Oh.
So what was you were saying something, Gail, too. There was something else you said you wanted me to share about that, and I'm trying to remember what it was. But anyway, so if anybody goes through that type
the story, publicizing the truth,
and they publicize it, and you're in the midst of all that, and people are looking at you, they've already got their story. They've already judged you. They're judging you. They're looking at you. They're saying this, that, and the other. My dad was in a show towards the end of his life with his 8th wife, and his wife told us, and we were going to the show to see it, and she said to me,
That's it.
Kelly, you know, that's what it is. Kelly, your dad he talks about all the wives, and when he gets to your mother, he usually blows a kiss and says something. She goes, he does it every single night. I want you to know he's not just doing it tonight when you see him do that, because you're here. I said, okay. So then he got to that point and he blows a kiss and he says, and Barbara, you were the love of my life. And so I know that at that point of my dad's life in 1966, that he really was in love with my mother. He truly did love her. She was not the scapegoat. She was not a whore that the media made her out to be. And they were trying to build up my dad, see, and make him look like the, you know, the one that was okay, which he was, but he, you know, he did his things too. So anyway, that was.
But they had to protect this bubble around him of the good Rooney boy.
Exactly.
Even as an adult man actor.
It was his publicist that actually went to the media.
All the money. It's the
and
media
went to, and did that.
So
and I can tell you, on that side of town with that publicist, the evil that came, and still to this day tried to come back, Gail, because after my mother died, the lawyers called my grandparents and said, you better get over here and get some of Barbara's things, because people are coming in and out of the house and taking Barbara's things. Her kids won't have anything left. So I'm in I think I was mid to late 50s, and I'm living in Forestville, California, Gail. And I get this phone call saying from somebody on Facebook, would you like to talk to Melody Dolph? Now, this was the publicist's daughter, and we used to swim together as kids.
Sure.
And I got to talk to her. I called her. I said, sure. So I'm like, hey, Melody, how are you? It's been years, you know. And she ends up telling me, she says, oh, I want you to know I have your mom and dad's piano. And I said, oh, what? Really?
A big item.
Says, the piano that has their initials in it. And I said, yes, I know the one you're speaking of. And I want you to know that if one day I put it up for auction, I'll let you know. So evil.
Yes.
So evil tries to come back, Gail, and ruin things that are, you know, and so there is a negative to a lot of things. So I've tried to keep.
You said she might sell the piano to you?
Yeah, she wasn't saying, yeah, she was letting me know if she ever put it up for auction, she would let me know. And I thought to myself, wow, you're just like your dad.
I'm lucky you don't send the police to go get my piano.
I don't listen. And it's just a thing.
Yeah.
I remember the thing, but I'm not going to bleed into that river
That's right.
of
That's right.
evil. And I'm just pushing forward like I have most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always known that there was one day, my grandparents are no longer alive, and they're the ones, like you were talking about, the hole in the heart. I wanted to fill that hole in their heart because of what the media did.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
they were so hurt over what was written.
Right. And that's
And
the bad side of the popularity of his life versus your private life
exactly.
with him.
Because believe me,
Right.
there's no joy in that. People
No.
think there is in being famous, but there isn't.
No.
No.
But anyway, I'm
And
still blessed, regardless of what happens.
I've had two little times that I drove you to the airport. No,
Yeah.
one time I drove you to the airport was when your dad passed.
Yes.
And that was an interesting story, what you experienced, if you want to share that, about how that I think helped led to your new career in elder abuse. So if you
Yeah.
want to spend a few minutes on that. But I also want to say that I thought, just like we talk about the negative, in the passing of your dad, the person took care of it and you ended up with the positive. And I thought that that was a very good story, if you wouldn't mind sharing that last little bit.
Yeah, I think my dad actually knew that he was in a way trying to protect us at the end of his life, that he didn't want us to have to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want us to deal with all that was going to be bubbling up from everything. But he was in a conservatorship. He told us that he wanted to live with my sister. We were going to set that all up. And one of my stepmother's sons and his wife took him. They went before a judge, and the judge says, somebody's got to take care of you, Mickey. And they raised their hands and they said, we will. And so they took him. And the conservator was the one that was protecting my dad, I guess, in a way, and not allowing any of us to see him, not allowing even a birthday card, or anything to come forward. And so my friend Carrie Kasem, who is Casey Kasem's daughter, her and I had a lot in common. She had a stepmom, and things happened with her dad, and they were being withheld from seeing him also, which what Carrie called was isolation. And I feel that that's what happened to our dad. He was isolated. And that's what they seem to do to our elders. Some of these bad people is they will isolate, they will medicate, and then they will cremate, and you will not have a chance to see your loved one. But because Carrie is such a little stick of dynamite, she said, we're going to change the law, because there's not a law in front of a judge that tells the judge that he has the right to discern a situation. So we changed the laws, and Gail was so kind in driving me to Sacramento the first time that I
It was an honor.
testified, because I was scared to death to testify, before that big room, Gail. But we
I
got
was
through
happy
it.
to take you.
Gail was right there by my side, and I got through that, and Carrie testified, and we put the bill forward first in California. And then we went all around the country, and we've changed the laws in 22 states, which we are really glad about. And we've helped other families that have been through similar things. And so that's really been something that I know, because my dad went before Congress and spoke about his abuse and his abusers. And so I just felt like I got to get behind this. This is something my dad would want me to do. And so I'll never forget it, because Gail was so kind and saying, Kelly, let me drive you. I know you'll be nervous. She says, be over here at a certain time. And I said, okay. And I had another dear friend tell me, Kelly, you're going to see this white feather. And when you do, it's going to be your dad, and he's going to be telling you that you're doing the right thing. And I go in and I get in Gail's car. Gail says, go ahead, get in the car. The garage is open. I shut the door, and here comes this white feather, and it landed on my leg. And I'll never forget that as long as I live, because then Gail opened the door and she goes, you got a white feather on your leg. And let me tell you something, I never knew anything about these white feather things, right? And I go, yeah, Gail, I do. What does that mean? She's like, we're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Your dad is with you. You're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And so I really felt that it was something I needed to do. But my dad also protected us also at the end of his life by keeping us away from it all, in a way.
The other part I just wanted you to add, because this is the part where I say that some of the people that try to be so negative and do bad things, it turns out that there's someone else, a higher force or something that protects them.
Yep.
You guys were all headed down to what you thought was the funeral that you were told this was
Yes.
the funeral. So if you could just tell that story.
Oh yeah, when we went down there,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what part you're referring to, Gail.
The stepmother tells you to come on Saturday, but really Friday was the funeral.
Exactly.
That story.
That's the truth.
All his children. I mean, could you just?
Yes.
And then
And
what
we
happened and how
and
the
we
funeral
we all
guys.
we all sat on one side. All of us were crammed into one pew. It was hilarious. Every single one of us, and my nephews, my twin nephews. And so when they called to actually walk my dad out in the coffin, which was done to, Scottish bagpipes, which that's what he wanted. They said, is there anybody that would like to, carry the coffin out? And my twin nephews stood up right away, and they were right there, and we were all behind him. And we drove him over to where he was going to be placed. And we all laid pink roses on his casket when we put him up into the area there at I think it's called what is it, Forever, Hollywood Forever Cemetery. That's the name of it, in Santa Monica, near Santa Monica. But yeah, that was something. She told us to be there on a certain day, and we were there on the right day.
Right day, but you didn't get to. But when the press was there and all his friends and they all thought, oh gee, none of his children showed up.
Yeah, that's what they
Because
said.
she told them, she made it so
She
that
made it to be another day.
Right.
That's the truth.
So that's
And it's a sad thing that people have to be that way.
right. And
It really is.
But you got protected because someone in the funeral parlor knew
Yes.
you would want to be there and did.
Yeah, and they called us and told us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So
So
I call
I'm
those people
good.
emotional gatekeepers.
That's so true.
Yeah. Wow.
But I'm so blessed because I know Gail, and
Right.
now I know Karen more.
Yes, you too, Kelly. Absolutely.
We could all have a relatives we've re-met party living.
I'm telling you. Totally.
So I just want to know now, I'm just going to go through my questions here to make sure that we've talked about positive and negatives. We've talked about how the families felt and the emotions we've had. And
I'm gonna turn my light off.
I just want to know if there's any more things that you want to discuss or share in the healing aspect, or any advice or words of wisdom that each of you would want to share with our listeners and our audience today. And I have to say, I loved being this group. I haven't done this kind of podcast, and I just had a great time. I hope I didn't talk too much as well.
No, I thought it
I
was
really
great.
appreciate you guys.
So, Karen, is there something you would like to say about your family, or any words of wisdom you want to? Like, my brother can't wait to see this podcast, so I'm looking forward to sharing it with him, and it will be coming out, shortly. But I'm wondering what else you might want to share with your family, or with Susan, or with anyone, any messages you might want to say.
Well, I don't, I'd love to offer words of wisdom, but instead what I'm feeling inside is that this gaining of comfort with myself, because I did say I was really comfortable with a room that had secrets. The personality in the room had secrets, and there's things I tried to make sense of my whole life and didn't fit. So now that I know sorry, I'll put my hands on. Now that I know the history and it more makes sense, I'm still trying to get comfortable with allowing myself to feel my own emotions, because I realized that through these situations, like I've positioned myself through Debbie. How did Debbie feel about the meeting with Susan? Whereas I was as happy as a clam in salt water. I was really happy to be in her backyard, feeling all this juicy, funny lights on the fancy trees. I was like, I feel like I'm a teenager again. Wow, we could hang out here. And then here's a girl I never met before, but she's my sister. We're just so similar, like a twin in a way.
Mhm.
So it's really about getting comfortable with the love and with I've always been comfortable with the diversity. It hasn't, I've cleaved to other diversity in my life, but comfortable with the emotions, allowing myself to really feel the emotions and not compartmentalize them and put them in a clean space. Because my mom did that for so many years. You know, when Sally slipped and told Debbie, and Debbie thought, okay, she said, don't go looking for her. Don't open this Pandora's box. And Debbie was like, okay, Mom, I get it. And I was like, why not? Why not? What do you mean? Don't we want to? So I had to hold back because in respect that Deborah wasn't ready to. And so therefore, how should I dare feel that I wanted to? How can I let myself be that needy or emotional or wanting to have answers? Instead, Debbie seems fine with it. I should therefore be okay with my older sister's emotions. And I got to tell you, the reason I mentioned that the series of photos I took when I saw them embracing on the dance floor was, and there were only 35 to 50 people. It was a nice, small, intimate bat mitzvah. We could all talk. It was great. But she still had purple yarmulkes and black satiny dresses, sparkly dresses. I didn't know there was a dress code. I have two. I could have worn it. But I saw them and I saw Debbie feeling things and letting herself, because she's very linear, she's a lawyer, she's very intellectual. I saw her allow herself to feel the spirit of the moment, the spirituality, the deep connection on this psychic, surreal, psychedelic, because it is all of those things. It's otherworldly. It's otherworldly to connect with someone that is more than 98% your DNA, because we're all 98% each other. But to get to 99.9, I still find it to be extremely beautiful. And like you said, honestly, to both of you, tingly. I haven't really allowed myself to acknowledge, but we were driving in the car and I was driving over to the bat mitzvah and it was like, wow, I'm really excited to be here. I'm feeling fluttery inside, and I have to allow myself think about that more and really reach out to them again and say, come on, guys. Because there is this moment where he poked me about the political current scenario in our world, and I didn't want to go there. I had promised myself that I wasn't going to poke. I said to myself, I wasn't going to do the hokey pokey and turn myself around because I would have spun myself into a negative space because I want to shake him. My brother-in-law is old enough, smart enough, and rich enough to let go of this personality of the entitled, rich, white Jewish guy that thinks it's funny to laugh at somebody else's discomfort. So I really feel that I am able to, I feel that I could now that the party's over and everyone's away, if we just got together, the four of us, I could ask him personally, Mark, I care about you. So I really do love you. Can we be serious about this? Because you always throw out these jousty things. And this is as serious as meeting my sister Susan is as serious as wars in the world. Why do we hate each other? Can't we love each other? Why can't we listen to the Bhagavad Gita or Rumi's poems as much as you got this 5 books of Moses has fueled our identity? Let's pick another movie. It doesn't need to fuel the identity that the boys have to hate each other. These two boys have to fight. They don't. And the girls know it. So why can't we all listen to each other? So I feel that what am I saying? These are very deep, very personal and political and emotional feelings that I wouldn't have with just a stranger. It would be a best friend, right? And I haven't known them my whole life, and yet I feel they're my best friends, that I could talk with them at this level, the same way I talk with Phil and with my husband, with my other deepest relationships, because that's how much I love her. That's wild. I didn't know her.
Mhm.
And similarly, Deborah, whose husband is also religious and has been a little, jabby. Debbie has come around. She went to the No Kings protest, my sister in Orange County. She said, I was so proud of my neighbors. They were honking as I drove to the event. My sister, who never allows herself to talk about these things. So for the rest of you, it's not about your politics. It's not about what side you're on. It's about allowing love into our life instead of fear and hate. It's about removing the hate and secrets and allowing love and joy in our life more, because we're only here 100 years, so we can choose what do we get to concentrate on. Let's concentrate on the love and on the connections, on the, oh my God, you laugh like my father. That's beautiful. You look just like him, but you're twice his height. It's beautiful it lets our love our parents even more and forgive them for their trespasses, for their walls that they put up. They only thought they were saving and protecting what they knew. And, had they allowed us to get closer to it, it would have been very different, but it is what it is. There's no regrets.
Yes.
You only go forward.
Beautifully said.
That's my
Very
words.
much so. I love that because it's, again, so relatable to what you said about allowing yourself to feel. And I am the compartmentalizer. And I've been that way since I was a kid. It was the only way I thought that I could deal with things, was to put them in there and hold them in there. But at this age, and here's a thing that's just coming to me, is why did I have to wait till this age to allow myself to feel? And I didn't have to, but I did. It was the way I dealt with it. So I would say, don't wait. If you feel that it's something that's important to you or the other person, don't wait. Even if you do get a negative out of it, don't wait, because it'll be for yourself. That you tried, that you had the courage, you were courageous enough to step into it and try to feel it.
Yeah, it answers questions you didn't know you had.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm grateful now that I'm still alive. I'm still here. I can still feel. My heart is still pounding for that which is good. I want to love. I don't want to hate. I don't want to be on sides. I never did. So I feel that it's a good time to feel and to feel good about what it is that's in your heart, on your mind, that you need to lay down, to walk through enough to know that it's going to be okay no matter what. It's going to be okay.
Beautiful.
Hallelujah.
So that's all.
It's true.
Well, I feel very filled inside today from our sharing. I
Me
find
too.
such wonderful comfort in being able to talk to each other about each other's stories and see what's common, what's different, how we each handle it, how our hearts and ourselves grow. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for us trying this wonderful conversation format. I feel like I got my other sisters here, and we've got three sisters, and we've just shared of our deepest heartfelt experiences of things that are what really matter in life. And it's about connection and love, and I think that we both shared, we all three shared some really wonderful stories about this in our life. And I appreciate everyone being open about that, because some people are in fear of being able to talk about these things. And I have no more secrets anymore. I'm a free person, and you two are as well. And I want to thank our audience for joining us today. I want to thank my children for producing and posting our show. I want to thank my husband for doing the descriptions. And please like, share, comment, subscribe. We're here and we love to hear from you. And remember,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you
both.
so much.
you.
Remember, everyone, like the beautiful women that were here today, share your stories because stories can heal. Bye.